Thomas is a tank engine who loves to huff and puff at every station along the main line. He is the #1 blue tank engine, just like Hong Mei. He huffs and puffs at every station along the main line. That wouldn't be so different, would it though? But he loves pulling his own coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, along his branch line after passing every station along the main line. And he loves shunting trucks in the yard, which makes him feel the best in everyone. Thomas decided to play a trick on Gordon, saying, "Wake up, lazy bones!" But Gordon was surprised to see Thomas and Edward trying to play a trick on them, and that was the worst mistake. Sometimes, Thomas loves doing his best shunting coaches or trucks, but sometimes he gets in a hurry and a bit of a rush. And sometimes he causes confusion and delay by making all sorts of big problems. And that means he is always late indeed. And sometimes that's a lot of work. But sometimes he gets catched up by Gordon and the Express would be racing into each other. And that made him feel briefly exhausted. But luckily, he loves to do his own shunting. To shunt or pull freight cars or passenger coaches, you have to work hard. But sometimes, Thomas gets caught up. That's because when he left the coaches at Nafford Station. But then he saw James passing nearby. James was shocked to see an engine pulling no coaches because he had left them at the station. Right at that moment, Thomas decided to do his hard work and excitement. But Edward didn't listen to instructions. Thomas wanted to take those trucks because they're Edward's. And Edward was trying to play a trick on him, but he didn't notice. But Edward was upset after taking the troublesome trucks and convinced himself that trucks are safe. To shunt trucks in the yard, you had to work hard. Thomas explained that Edward was sorry for taking the troublesome trucks. But luckily, he minded to do his own work back again. And finally, Thomas worked in the yard. Thomas had worked in the yard, pulling oil tankers. The heavy train was constant. But while after all, he thankful Edward for giving our advice for the day and shunting for the rest of the day. That's why he's a really useful engine in the world. By pulling or shunting freight cars and coaches, especially when he's rescuing James from danger from the signs ahead because of the troublesome trucks. Thomas asks James to get help, so he rushed on. But luckily, Thomas thankful Edward for all your help. He thankful Edward for all his help. And he went by to collect Annie and Clarabelle in the yard. When he coupled up Annie and Clarabelle, they were surprised to see James. After he coupled up Annie and Clarabelle, he went off nearby to his own branch line again. Luckily, he was back on his own branch line again. And that made it fair. Thomas said thankful Edward and said goodbye. All the engines waited as Thomas went nearby. As he went to go on his own branch line, he was happily back on his usual own branch line again, pulling his own coaches, Annie and Clarabelle on his branch line, just like a big world adventure.
I'm the #1 tank engine, and I love to race. When I went to China, a lot of things looked different. But one of the engines was just like me. All aboard for a big adventure!